In the verdant expanse of Ardina, where the very leaves whispered melodies and the rivers hummed soft baritones, music was not merely an art, it was the lifeblood of creation. Here, the grand symphony had played without cessation for centuries, its continuous orchestration harmonizing the natural world and its inhabitants in an eternal, melodious embrace. On a day marked by neither occasion nor ceremony, this symphony, so integral to the rhythm of life, fell silent. The cessation was abrupt, a cessation so complete that even the wind seemed to halt in bafflement. In the villages, the fields, and the cities structured like vast amphitheaters, every creature, every person felt the void where once there had been sound. Selim, a young flutist known for his virtuoso performances but plagued by an inarticulable yearning, was rehearsing within the vine-entwined walls of his guild's hall when silence fell. The last note from his flute lingered in the air, a solitary testament to sound, before it too succumbed to the stillness. He lowered his instrument, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Why has the music stopped?" his fellow musician, Lyra, asked, her voice a stark intrusion in the unnatural quiet. The others in the room exchanged looks of concern, their eyes wide with the shared realization of anomaly. "I do not know," Selim replied, the weight of the silence pressing uncomfortably against his eardrums. "But it feels as if the heart of Ardina has ceased beating." The guild master, an elderly woman with hair as silver as the strings of a cello, stepped forward. Her usual composure wavered, her hands trembling not from age but from the shock of the stillness. "This is unprecedented," she declared, her voice steady despite her evident alarm. "The grand symphony has never faltered. Not in the memory of our ancestors, not in the legends of old." Outside, the world seemed paused. Birds flew silently, their wings slicing the air without the usual rustling whispers. The leaves were motionless, as if they too were holding their breath, waiting for the notes that dictated their swaying. Selim stepped outside, his mind racing as he sought the comfort of his own thoughts. What could silence the eternal music? What disaster foretold such a curse? His heart felt tight, constricted, as if each beat was a note played in isolation, a melody incomplete. "This silence, it's an omen," Lyra murmured, coming to stand beside him. Her face was pale, her usual vibrancy dimmed by the gravity of their reality. "Perhaps it is," Selim mused aloud. "Or perhaps it is a call." "A call?" she echoed, skepticism lacing her tone. "To those who listen more deeply," he continued, his gaze distant, as if he could discern some faint, lingering vibration in the air. "Maybe it's not disaster but a challenge, a puzzle meant for solving." The idea took root in his mind, sprouting possibilities as wild and unruly as the ivy on the guild walls. Selim had always felt an emptiness, a missing note in the symphony of his life. Could this silence be the key to finding it? "I must find out why," he decided, more to himself than to Lyra. "I must understand this silence." Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the tumultuous mix of fear and admiration that the others surely felt. "Then we shall seek the answers together," she resolved, her voice a soft but firm melody of loyalty. Together, they turned their gazes toward the horizon, where the setting sun cast long shadows over a now quiet world. The journey ahead would be fraught with uncertainties, but the path was clear. They must venture beyond the familiarity of their guild, into the disrupted lands of Ardina, to uncover the cause of the silence that had stilled their world. As the stars began to emerge, twinkling silently above, Selim felt a stir within, the first whisper of a composition yet to be written, a story yet to be told. With a deep, silent breath, he readied himself for the morrow, for the first steps into a silent world screaming for its lost melody. As dawn broke over Ardina, the first light painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, yet the world awoke to an eerie calm. The usual morning symphony of chirping birds and whispering winds was absent, replaced by a suffocating silence that hung over the land like a dense fog. Selim and Lyra, carrying only their instruments and essentials, stepped beyond the threshold of their guild, their hearts heavy with the gravity of their quest. They ventured into the once melodious forests that now lay quiet, their beauty untouched yet rendered surreal by the silence. "The world feels different," Lyra remarked, her voice low, as if afraid to disturb the stillness. "Look at the trees, Selim. They stand so still, as if frozen in time." Selim nodded, his eyes scanning the landscape. "It's as though nature itself is holding its breath, waiting for the music to return. We need to find out why it stopped, why the grand symphony has abandoned us." As they traveled, the duo encountered other bewildered travelers and guild members. Each person shared the same mix of fear and confusion, their eyes searching for answers in a world that had lost its voice. "We heard it too," the silence came suddenly, without warning. A harpist from the Northern Guild shared as they crossed paths at a silent stream that flowed without its usual babbling tune. "It's as if the soul of Ardina has vanished." Selim felt a chill, not from fear, but from realization. The music is more than our life's backdrop, it's our essence. Without it, everything feels incomplete, he thought, the weight of their task settling deeper within him. Pressing onward, they reached the town of Harmon's Edge by midday. Known for its vibrant market and lively tunes, the town now felt like a ghost of itself, its silence amplifying the absence of life's vibrancy. The market stalls were open, but the vendors spoke in hushed tones, their usual lively haggling silenced. In the town square, a gathering of the region's most respected composers and conductors was underway, all seeking to understand the catastrophe. Selim and Lyra joined the crowd, eager to glean any new insights. A seasoned composer, Maestro Virio, stood addressing the worried crowd. "We must consider the possibility that this is no mere accident. The Grand Symphony is tied to the very core of Ardina. Its cessation might mean that the core itself is in jeopardy. Could someone have caused this?" Selim wondered, his gaze drifting across the anxious faces around him. "And if so, why?" The meeting concluded with more questions than answers, but it was clear that fear was beginning to take hold. If the silence continued, the very fabric of their world could begin to unravel. Determined to find answers, Selim and Lyra decided to head towards the great conductors' hall in the capital, believing that if any answers were to be found, they would be there. Their journey took them through varied landscapes, each eerily silent, the usual harmony of elements displaced by a stifling quietude. That night, as they camped under the starless sky, Selim lay awake, his mind teeming with thoughts. Is it possible that the silence is not a curse but a message? He pondered the maestro's words, the potential of danger lurking in their very foundations. Lyra, sensing his unrest, whispered, "Whatever we find, we face it together. The music that bound Ardina still binds us. We'll restore it, Selim. We must." Her words, though soft, carried a fierce determination. Selim felt a surge of gratitude for her companionship, her presence a melody in the quiet that surrounded them. With the break of a new day, they continued their journey, their resolve strengthened. The silence would not defeat them. They would unravel its mysteries, restore the symphony, and with it, the soul of their world. As they ventured deeper into the heart of Ardina, the stillness seemed to echo with the whispers of a forgotten melody, calling them forward, guiding them towards an unknown destiny. With each step, the hidden truths of the silence beckoned, promising revelations that could either save their world or condemn it to perpetual silence. The path to the capital was long and fraught with the unnerving quiet that had engulfed Ardina. As Selim and Lyra progressed, the landscapes shifted from the lush greens of familiar woods to the stark, imposing architecture of the cities, their grandeur now overshadowed by the pervasive silence. Each step seemed amplified, each breath a thunderous presence in the void left by the missing symphony. As they neared the outskirts of the capital, the duo noticed a subtle change in the air, a tension that felt like a prelude to a storm yet bore no clouds nor wind. The silence here was thicker, almost palpable, as if it were a living entity with its own will and purpose. It feels like we're walking into the heart of a beast, Lyra whispered, her usual stoic demeanor tinged with a hint of unease. Selim nodded, his hand instinctively reaching for his flute strapped to his side. This silence, it's more than absence. It's active, deliberate. It's as if something, or someone, is holding the notes captive, keeping them from us intentionally. Their journey took them through the market district, where the usually bustling area was unnaturally subdued. Stalls displayed their wares in silence, their owners' smiles tight and forced, their eyes darting nervously. The lack of music made every interaction feel hollow, every exchange a mime show devoid of life's soundtrack. In a small, shadowed alley, they encountered an old musician, his instrument case open in front of him, collecting only dust. His fingers hovered over the strings of a violin, moving in silence as he pretended to play. "Why do you play without sound?" Selim asked, approaching him with respectful curiosity. The old man looked up, his eyes a mix of sorrow and defiance. "Because even silent, the act of playing reminds me of who I am, of who we all are. We are the music, young man, even when it is stolen from us." This encounter left a profound impression on Selim. Even in silence, there is resistance, he thought, feeling a new resolve solidifying within him. The musician's words echoed in his heart, reinforcing his determination to restore what had been lost. Pressing forward, they finally reached the great conductor's hall, a magnificent structure that stood solemnly, its usual vibrant aura dimmed. The hall, once alive with the sound of rehearsals and performances, now stood mute, its doors closed as if in mourning. They were met at the entrance by a guard, his expression grave. "The hall is closed to the public. The council is in session, discussing the crisis. We need to speak to them. It's important," Selim insisted, his voice carrying more authority than he felt. "We've come a long way, and we believe we might have insights into the cause of the silence." After a moment of hesitation, the guard nodded, allowing them entry. Inside, the hall's vast interior magnified the silence, the empty seats a stark reminder of the missing symphony. The council, composed of the most esteemed musicians and scholars, was gathered around a large, circular table, their faces etched with concern. As Selim and Lyra approached, a murmur went through the room, their arrival an unexpected interruption. "We apologize for the intrusion," Lyra began, her voice echoing slightly in the large hall. "But we believe the silence is not a mere cessation but a message, possibly a manipulation." A tall, dignified woman at the head of the table regarded them with a skeptical eye. "And what makes you think this, young flutist?" Selim stepped forward, feeling every eye upon him. "Throughout our journey here, we've encountered many who believe the silence has a deliberate quality to it. It feels as if it's being used, controlled somehow. And perhaps," he paused, gathering his courage, "it's connected to someone who once sought to use dissonance as a new form of power." Whispers filled the room, the name, Harmonique, on some lips, a feared yet respected figure who had once challenged the traditional symphonic methods. The council's interest was piqued, and they invited Selim and Lyra to share more. As they recounted their observations and the words of the old musician, the atmosphere shifted from skepticism to contemplation. "We must consider every possibility," the head of the council concluded, her tone now reflecting a mix of worry and resolve. "Continue your investigation, with our blessing. Keep us informed of your findings." Grateful for the council's support, Selim and Lyra left the hall with renewed purpose. As they stepped back into the silence of the capital, the weight of their task was immense, but so was their resolve. The clues were there, scattered like notes waiting to be woven into a melody that could once again fill Ardina with music. The whispers of a forgotten melody were now screams in their minds, urging them on. They knew the journey ahead would be perilous, the answers they sought wrapped in layers of mystery and danger. But the music called to them, a siren song of hope and defiance, and they could do nothing but follow. As Selim and Lyra stepped out from the great conductor's hall, The weight of the council's words settled upon them like the heavy cloak of night. The capital, once a beacon of cultural brilliance and melodious joy, now lay shrouded in an oppressive silence that seemed to sap the very color from its surroundings. The buildings, immaculate with their high arches and intricate frescoes, echoed emptiness, their beauty rendered haunting in the quiet. Determined to trace the roots of this ominous silence, the pair set their course for the remote villages rumored to be the last to fall silent. If Harmonique was indeed wielding dissonance as a weapon or a tool, perhaps the fringes of Ardina would hold clues to her machinations or whereabouts. The journey was arduous. Without the music that once guided and protected travelers, the roads felt treacherous, the landscapes unfamiliar. Nature itself appeared confused, with birds occasionally bursting into flight, only to fall silent and settle abruptly, as if remembering the new law of the land. The further we go, the more this silence gnaws at me, Lyra confessed as they made camp one evening under a sky that refused to twinkle. Her fingers absent-mindedly brushed over her lute, which lay silent beside her. Selim shared the sentiment, feeling the silence like a physical barrier around his heart. Yet, his resolve only hardened. "Each quiet day that passes is another day we edge closer to answers," he said, trying to infuse hope into his words. As they ventured deeper into the rural heartlands, they encountered a village cloaked not just in silence, but in a palpable dread. The villagers, upon seeing the travelers, approached with cautious curiosity. Their faces were etched with the hardships of living in a world where the rhythms of life had been disrupted. "We've seen no travelers for weeks." A grizzled old man spoke up, his voice rough like gravel, unused and strained. "What brings you to our silent shores?" "We're searching for the cause of the silence," Selim responded, his eyes scanning the gathering crowd for any flicker of recognition or fear at the mention of their quest. "We believe someone might be controlling it for their own ends." The mention of control sparked a murmur among the villagers, and an elderly woman stepped forward, her eyes sharp with intelligence and something darker, perhaps fear or grief. "If you're chasing shadows, you might as well chase the ghost of Harmonique," she said, her voice a whisper that carried with it a shudder of dread. "Her ideas were dangerous, her ambitions even more so." Her words confirmed some of their fears and ignited new ones. "Do you know where she might have gone?" Lyra asked, her voice gentle, trying to coax more from the wary villagers. "There are tales," another villager chimed in, younger and more eager. "Tales of a valley cloaked in perpetual mist, where the winds carried dissonant echoes. Some say Harmonique sought refuge there, among the discord she cherished." The directions were vague, the path uncertain, but with each word, the puzzle began to piece itself together in Selim's mind. A place of discord might just be the sanctuary of someone who sought to harness the power of dissonance. Thanking the villagers, Selim and Lyra set out at first light, their destination set towards the mysterious valley. The landscape grew increasingly wild, the terrain rugged and untamed as they approached the area described by the villagers. As they neared the valley, a faint sound began to pierce the oppressive silence. A sound so faint and distorted, it was as if the air itself was warped. The trees around them began to twist in unnatural shapes, their branches contorted as if in agony. "This must be it," Selim murmured, his hand tightening around his flute. "The Valley of Dissonance." Lyra nodded, her face set in a determined frown. "Let's find this Harmonique and see if she holds the key to restoring Ardina's melody." With cautious steps, they descended into the valley, the distorted sounds growing louder, more chaotic. It was as if the very earth was groaning under the weight of a corrupted symphony. Here, they hoped to find Harmonique and with her, the means to end the silence that held Ardina in its grim embrace. Their journey through the disrupted lands had led them to this nexus of chaos, where the battle for Ardina's soul would soon be confronted head-on. The stakes were clear, and their course was set. Ahead lay answers and, perhaps, the restoration of harmony itself. The path to the heart of the valley twisted through gnarled trees and overgrown underbrush, as if nature itself had turned hostile, rebelling against the unnatural silence that plagued the land. As Selim and Lyra delved deeper, the distorted noises that initially whispered at the edge of perception grew into a cacophony of disharmony. The sounds were not just audibly jarring but seemed to twist the air, warping reality around them. "This place, it feels alive, but not in a way it should be," Lyra observed, her voice tinged with unease. Her hands hovered over her lute, the instrument reacting to the discordant vibrations in the air, its strings trembling without touch. Selim felt it too, a sinister pulsation that seemed to beat in sync with his own heart. "It's as if the dissonance has a pulse, a breath. Harmonique has not just hidden here, she has infused the valley with her essence," he mused, gripping his flute tightly, though it warm against his skin as if resonating with his determination. As they ventured forward, the valley seemed to close in around them. The trees leaned closer, their branches like twisted fingers pointing, guiding them further in. The ground beneath their feet pulsed with a life of its own, each step sending ripples through the soil, echoing the chaotic symphony that filled the air. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, a clear, sharp melody cut through the dissonance. The sound was pure, hauntingly beautiful, and yet it carried an undercurrent of immense power. Following the melody, they came upon a clearing where the source of the sound was revealed, a grand piano, its black lacquer gleaming under a shaft of light that pierced the canopy above. And there, seated at the piano, was a figure as striking as the music she produced. Harmonique was an enigmatic vision, her fingers dancing over the keys with a masterful grace that belied the chaos around her. Her hair flowed around her like a mantle of silver, and her eyes, when they lifted to meet Selim and Lyra's, shone with the intensity of someone who had embraced the full spectrum of her art's power. "You've come a long way to find me," she said, her voice melodious yet tinged with a coldness that matched the eerie atmosphere of the valley. "But what is it that you seek? Redemption for Ardina or understanding of what you could become?" Selim stepped forward, his resolve hardening. "We seek to restore the balance, to bring back the harmony that Ardina has lost. Your experiments with dissonance have endangered everything." Harmonique laughed, a sound that seemed to resonate with the discord around them. "Harmony? My dear, true art arises from conflict, from the clash of notes, and the resolution of tensions. I merely freed us from the shackles of perpetual harmony." As she spoke, the air around them thickened, the dissonance growing in intensity. It was as if the valley itself responded to her mood, the atmosphere pulsating with every word she uttered. Lyra, stepping beside Selim, her expression resolute, added, "But at what cost? The land suffers, the people suffer. Your freedom has become our captivity." For a moment, Harmonique's facade wavered, a flicker of conflict crossing her features. "Perhaps," she conceded, her gaze softening ever so slightly. "But can you not hear the beauty in this chaos? The potential for new music, new expressions of what our world can be. It's not just about music," Selim argued. "It's about life. Our world thrives on balance, not just tension and release. You've upset everything we know." A tense silence fell, the dissonance receding momentarily as if the valley itself held its breath, awaiting Harmonique's response. Finally she stood, her presence commanding as she looked them over. "Then prove to me that your way can sustain the new melodies I've unleashed. Show me that harmony can still hold its own against the depth of dissonance I've discovered." The challenge hung heavy in the air, laden with risks and implications far beyond the valley. Selim exchanged a glance with Lyra, both understanding the gravity of what was being asked. This was not merely a duel of musical skills but a contest for the future of Ardina itself. With a nod of silent agreement, they prepared themselves, Selim with his flute and Lyra with her lute, ready to weave a tapestry of sound that would reclaim the soul of their world from the depths of dissonance. This was their chance to harmonize the chaos, to restore the symphony of Ardina, or to succumb to the new order Harmonique envisioned. Under the watchful gaze of the ancient trees and the oppressive canopy of dissonance that draped over the valley, Selim and Lyra readied themselves. The clearing around the grand piano where Harmonique sat became an impromptu stage for a battle not of swords, but of melodies. Harmonique's challenge resonated in the charged air, her fingers poised above the ivory keys, an invitation and a threat all at once. Selim took a deep breath, feeling the familiar weight of his flute against his lips. Beside him, Lyra tuned her lute, the strings quivering under her gentle touch, as if aware of the impending duel. They exchanged a look of solidarity, their resolve firm despite the maelstrom of chaos that encircled them. Harmonique began, her fingers descending upon the keys with a deliberate grace. The notes that flowed forth were dark and tumultuous, echoing through the valley with a power that seemed to bend the very light around them. Her music was a tapestry of complex emotions, weaving layers of discord into a narrative that spoke of freedom from constraints, a wild, untamed beauty that defied the traditional laws of harmony. As her piece crescendoed, the surrounding dissonance grew, feeding off her energy. The trees swayed despite the absence of wind, their branches creaking ominously. The ground pulsed, syncing with the deep, resonant bass notes that thundered from the piano. Then, it was Selim's turn. Lifting his flute, he drew from the core of his being a melody that contrasted sharply with Harmonique's. His notes were clear and bright, each one ringing out like a call to awaken from a deep slumber. The music spoke of renewal, of the gentle unfurling of leaves and the quiet dignity of dawn. Where Harmonique's piece roared with the chaos of a storm, Selim's whispered of the serene after. Lyra joined him, her lute harmonizing with his flute. Her music added a layer of warmth, her chords painting vivid strokes of color against the canvas of Selim's melody. Together, they crafted a duet that intertwined their individual hopes and dreams, a sonic embrace that sought to heal the wounds inflicted by the rampant dissonance. The battle of music ebbed and flowed, a dynamic clash of ideologies. Harmonique countered, her next piece more introspective, yet still laced with an edge of defiance. Her music questioned, probed at the very essence of tradition, challenging the norms with every note that spilled from the grand piano. Selim and Lyra responded in kind, their music adapting, evolving as they absorbed the essence of Harmonique's arguments and refuted them with their own. Their tunes spoke of balance, of the beauty found in the coexistence of order and innovation. They acknowledged the validity of her rebellion but emphasized the chaos it wrought when left unchecked. As the musical duel reached its zenith, the very atmosphere of the valley seemed to vibrate with the weight of their arguments. The dissonant energies stirred by Harmonique battled against the harmonious resolutions offered by Selim and Lyra, the air a tumultuous sea of clashing waves. Finally, as the last notes lingered in the air, a profound silence fell over the valley. It was a charged, expectant pause, the world holding its breath as it awaited Harmonique's verdict. Slowly, Harmonique lowered her hands from the piano and looked up, her expression inscrutable. The trees stilled, and the ground ceased its trembling. The dissonance that had once dominated the valley receded, leaving behind a fragile quiet. "You have shown great courage and conviction," Harmonique conceded, her voice echoing softly in the newfound silence. "Your harmonies, they are compelling indeed. Perhaps there is a place for your ideals in the new world I envisioned." Selim and Lyra waited, the tension between them palpable. Harmonique stood, her silhouette framed by the light that now gently filtered through the leaves. "Let us find a way to blend our voices," she proposed, extending her hand, not as a conqueror but as a collaborator. "Together, we may yet compose a symphony worthy of Ardina's legacy, a symphony of balance, embracing both the old and the new." As they clasped her hand, the first tentative notes of a true collaboration began to form, a cautious yet hopeful melody that promised to heal the rifts torn by discord and bring forth a new era of understanding and unity. In this unexpected alliance, the future of Ardina sang with potential, resonating with the promise of harmony restored and chaos beautifully integrated. In the newly forged calm of the valley, the trio, Selim, Lyra, and Harmonique, stood together, united by a newfound purpose. The air, once thick with discord, now hummed with a tentative truce, the first verse of a hopeful new chapter. The trees seemed to listen, their leaves rustling softly in a non-existent breeze, eager witnesses to the birth of this fresh alliance. Harmonique led them back to the grand piano, its ebony surface gleaming under the dappled sunlight that now broke through the canopy. "Let us begin," she declared, her voice no longer cold but infused with a warm, invitational tone. "Our first task is to weave a bridge between my dissonance and your harmony. We must create a piece that embodies both, that speaks of conflict and resolution." Selim approached, his flute in hand, his heart swelling with a mixture of apprehension and excitement. Beside him, Lyra adjusted her lute, her eyes bright with the challenge. They positioned themselves around the piano, forming a triangle of creativity in the heart of the clearing. Harmonique started, her fingers caressing the keys to produce a low, haunting melody that seemed to crawl from the shadows of the valley. It was beautiful yet somber, filled with the wisdom of deep forests and dark nights. As she played, she nodded to Selim, signaling him to join. Drawing a deep breath, Selim raised his flute and wove his own melody around Harmonique's. His notes soared high and clear, like the first light of dawn stretching across a darkened sky. The sound of his flute offered warmth and light, intertwining with the piano's melancholic tune, lifting it, transforming it. Lyra then joined, her lute adding richness to the composition. Her chords brought color and depth, painting the sonic canvas with hues of hope and renewal. Her music danced between the piano and flute, a mediator that bound the contrasting melodies into a coherent whole. As they played, the valley responded. The twisted trees began to straighten, their branches unfurling towards the sky as if in gratitude. Flowers, long wilted under the weight of relentless dissonance, now peeked from the undergrowth, their petals unfurling tentatively. "This is it," Lyra whispered under her breath, her fingers deftly strumming. "This is how we heal." Harmonique's eyes, once icy in their resolve, now gleamed with tears. "I had forgotten," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the music. "I had forgotten the beauty of harmony, the strength it can lend to even the deepest dissonance." The music crescendoed, reaching a peak where neither dissonance nor harmony dominated but instead existed in exquisite balance. It was a sound that encapsulated the tumult of their journey, the battles fought, and the compromises found. It spoke of the possibility of change and the power of unity. As the final notes echoed through the clearing, a profound stillness enveloped them. They lowered their instruments, each musician feeling the shift, a palpable change in the air and in themselves. "We have created something unique today," Harmonique said, stepping forward to place a hand on both Selim's and Lyra's shoulders. "A synthesis of ideals, a testament to what we can achieve when we choose to listen and learn from each other." Selim nodded, his earlier doubts dissolved in the wake of their collaborative creation. "Let us take this music back to the people of Ardina," he suggested, a smile breaking across his face. "Let them hear what we have found here, in the heart of dissonance, a harmony robust enough to embrace differences, strong enough to withstand the winds of change." And so, they left the valley, not as adversaries but as co-creators, bound by a shared vision. They traveled back through the forests and towns, their journey back marked not by the ominous quiet of before but by a gentle murmur of anticipation. News of their alliance spread, and people, once divided by fear of the silence, now gathered to hear the music that promised a new beginning. At every stop, they performed their new composition, each rendition more confident, more vibrant. The music healed not just the land but the hearts of those who heard it, knitting together a community torn by uncertainty and fear. In time, the music of Harmonique, Selim, and Lyra became the anthem of a new era in Ardina, a symbol of resilience and unity. It was a melody born from the clashing of worlds, a symphony that would echo through the ages, a reminder that even in the deepest discord, there is the potential for a harmony waiting to be discovered, waiting to transform the world. As the echoes of their newfound symphony spread across Ardina, Selim, Lyra, and Harmonique found themselves at the heart of a transformation unlike any the realm had seen before. Towns and villages that had once cowered under the oppressive silence now thrived with the vibrancy of sound and life. From the bustling marketplaces to the tranquil glades, their music rekindled the essence of Ardina, weaving together the threads of old disputes and new beginnings. Their return to the capital was nothing short of triumphant. The city, which had once stood as a mute testament to the fear and division sown by silence, now burst forth in jubilant celebration. Banners flew from the rooftops, painted in bright, harmonious colors, and the streets filled with people, their faces alight with the joy of deliverance and the anticipation of the concert that would mark the dawn of a new era. On the eve of the grand performance, the great conductor's hall, once silent and somber, was abuzz with activity. Musicians from all over the realm gathered, instruments in hand, ready to be part of the historic ensemble that would perform the synthesis of dissonance and harmony. Selim, standing on the stage beside Lyra and Harmonique, looked out over the assembling orchestra and felt a surge of pride. "We've brought them hope," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes," Lyra agreed, tuning her lute one final time. "But more than that, we've shown them that change isn't something to fear if embraced with an open heart." Harmonique, now more a mentor than a maverick, nodded. "Today, we not only play our composition but also set the tone for the future. This concert will be remembered as the moment Ardina found its new voice, a voice of unity." The hall gradually filled, the murmur of countless voices blending into a lively hum. As the royal family took their seats, along with dignitaries from distant lands, the significance of the moment was palpable. Selim took a moment to breathe deeply, absorbing the energy of the crowded hall. When the time came, a hush fell over the audience. The first note struck by Harmonique on the piano was soft, almost tentative, but it carried with it the weight of all they had overcome. Slowly, the orchestra joined in, each instrument adding its voice to the narrative of rebirth and reconciliation being painted in sound. The music swelled, a dynamic and captivating dialogue between the winds, strings, and keys. It spoke of dark days and the light that followed, of discord and the beauty found in resolution. Each movement was a testament to their journey, the uncertainty, the conflict, and the ultimate collaboration that led to peace. As the final movement approached, Selim introduced a solo that he had composed in the heart of the valley. The flute's melody soared above the orchestra, a poignant reminder of the solitude and introspection that had led to this moment. It was a melody of introspection, of personal and communal healing, resonating deeply with everyone present. The concert concluded with a standing ovation that seemed to shake the foundations of the hall itself. Tears, cheers, and laughter mingled in the air, a cacophony more beautiful than any symphony could convey. In the days that followed, the impact of their music spread even further. New laws were enacted to foster collaboration between the various musical guilds and schools, ensuring that the lessons of the past were not forgotten. Harmonique was offered a position to lead a new institution dedicated to the exploration of music's boundaries, a place where dissonance and harmony could continue to challenge and enhance each other. Selim and Lyra, now celebrated as heroes and visionaries, decided to establish a traveling school, one that would bring music and its healing powers to every corner of Ardina. Together they journeyed, teaching and learning in equal measure, always guided by the belief that every note played was a step towards a more harmonious world. As years turned to decades, the story of their journey, the battle against silence, the reconciliation of dissonant hearts, and the symphony that bound a kingdom, was told and retold, a legend that inspired countless others to find harmony amidst discord, proving that even the deepest divides could be bridged by the universal language of music. The years that followed the triumphant concert were marked by a renaissance of culture and collaboration in Ardina. The melody composed by Selim, Lyra, and Harmonique resonated not just through the realms of music but into the fabric of society itself, weaving a new tapestry of interconnected lives and dreams. Ardina's landscape transformed. mirroring the harmonious blend of music that now defined its identity. Where once silence had stifled the vibrant colors of the marketplace, now every stall and shop played melodies that spoke to the soul of its people. Orchards and fields grew lush, as if the plants themselves thrived on the symphony of sounds that filled the air, and the rivers sang once more, their waters dancing joyously along their banks. Selim and Lyra, with their traveling school, ventured beyond the familiar routes, reaching the remote corners of Ardina. In each village or town, they not only taught the principles of music but also listened to the local sounds and stories, incorporating them into their ever-evolving symphony. One evening, as they camped under the stars near the border of Ardina, Lyra plucked a gentle tune on her lute, the notes mingling with the crackle of the fire. "Do you think the music can truly heal all wounds, Selim?" she asked, her voice carrying a wistful tone. Selim considered this, his eyes tracing the constellations above. "Perhaps not all," he replied thoughtfully. "But it can soothe them, teach us to understand them better. And maybe, in understanding, we find ways to heal." Their discussions often dipped into such philosophical realms, their experiences enriching their understanding of music's power and its limitations. Meanwhile, Harmonique, at her new institution, delved deeper into the study of musical theory and its applications. The academy became a hub of innovation, attracting scholars, composers, and thinkers from across the world. Her teachings, once feared for their radical ideas, now sparked debates and discussions on the evolution of music and its role in society. Every year, on the anniversary of the concert that had redefined Ardina, a festival was held in the capital. Musicians, artists, and citizens from every corner of the realm, and beyond, gathered to celebrate the power of unity and the beauty of diversity. The festival culminated in a grand performance at the Great Conductors' Hall, where the original symphony was played, reminding everyone of the journey from discord to harmony. Decades passed, and the story of their journey, as Selim had hoped, became a legend. It was taught in schools, depicted in plays, and celebrated in paintings. The narrative evolved with each retelling, each artist adding their own hues to the story, but the core remained the same, a testament to the transformative power of collaboration and understanding. In their twilight years, Selim and Lyra returned to the valley where it all began. The trees now stood tall and proud, the wildflowers carpeted the ground in a riot of colors, and the air vibrated with the gentle hum of a perfectly balanced dissonance and harmony. Sitting by the grand piano, which still rested in the clearing, now worn by time but majestic as ever, they played once more. Harmonique joined them, her steps slower but her spirit undimmed. Together they filled the valley with music, a richer, deeper melody seasoned with the wisdom of years and the experiences of a lifetime. As the final notes drifted into the evening air, Harmonique turned to her companions, her eyes gleaming with unshed tears. "We did well, didn't we?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. "We did," Selim agreed, his hand finding Lyra's, their fingers intertwining like the melodies they had played. "We created more than music," Lyra added softly. "We created hope." And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, their legacy echoed through the valley, a perpetual harmony that would resonate through generations, a reminder of the day when three musicians tuned their instruments and opened their hearts to change the world. As the golden hues of twilight melted into the soft darkness of night, Selim, Lyra, and Harmonique sat together by the old grand piano, the lingering notes of their final concert still trembling in the cool air. Around them, the valley hummed with a peaceful quiet, a silent witness to the closing of a monumental chapter in their lives. In this moment of reflective calm, Harmonique, her silver hair glinting under the moonlight, spoke again, her voice softer this time, imbued with a gentle wisdom. "We've sown seeds that will grow long after our melodies fade from memory. This valley, these instruments, our very spirits have become conduits for change, for hope." Selim, his eyes on the shimmering stars above, felt a profound sense of completion. "It's strange," he mused aloud, "how sounds, so fleeting and ephemeral, can imprint themselves so deeply into the fabric of a world. We've crafted a legacy not just of notes and rhythms, but of ideals, of dreams. Lyra, picking up her lute once more, strummed a few quiet chords that resonated with the whispering grass around them. Music is the language of the soul, transcending words, bridging divides. What we've created will resonate in hearts and in the echoes of Ardina's mountains and rivers. The conversation drifted into silence, each lost in their own thoughts, pondering the ripples their union had created across their world. From the turmoil of dissonance, they had woven a harmony so profound that it had reshaped their society's understanding of connection and unity. As the night deepened, they discussed their final contributions to Ardina. Harmonique planned to establish a scholarship in her academy, dedicated to students from all walks of life who sought to explore the boundaries of musical innovation. "Let it be known," she declared, "that this academy will always be a place where the unconventional is explored, where the fusion of dissonance and harmony continues to evolve." Selim spoke of a series of flute compositions he intended to complete, each inspired by different regions of Ardina. "These pieces will be my homage to the land and its people, capturing the essence of its diverse beauty and spirit." Lyra envisioned a series of festivals, not just in Ardina but across distant lands, celebrating the universal language of music. Imagine festivals where music is not just performed but lived, where every note played is a thread binding the tapestry of cultures and histories. Their plans were ambitious, but in their hearts they knew the truth of their reach. Music had transformed them as much as it had the world around them, teaching them that change was not only possible but necessary for growth. As dawn approached, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink, they played together once more. This final melody was a tender farewell, a soft yet powerful acknowledgement of their journey and its impact. It was a song of endings, of beginnings, of the perpetual cycle of life and art. When the last note faded into the rising sun, they stood and embraced, knowing this was not truly an ending, but a passing on of their legacy to the next generation of dreamers and musicians. "We have done what we set out to do," Selim said, looking at his companions with a mixture of joy and nostalgia. "Now, it's up to those who follow to play their parts." "Yes," Harmonique agreed, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "We have composed the prelude, now let them write the symphonies." As they left the valley, the sun crested the hills, its rays like the notes of a new song reaching across the land. The valley remained, a sanctuary of peace and creativity, echoing with the harmonies of the past, whispering the possibilities of the future. Back in their respective worlds, their influence continued to inspire, their teachings and music becoming the foundations upon which new arts were built, new harmonies conceived. The symphony they began continued to play, an eternal melody carried forward by those who believed in the power of unity, in the transformative power of music to heal, to unify, and to celebrate the rich tapestry of human experience. Thus, the legacy of Selim, Lyra, and Harmonique became an enduring echo through time, a harmony that resonated through the ages, reminding all of the power of art to change the world. Thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps a lot. If you don't, well, I'll still love you. Thanks for stopping by.